have questions. Now, I think multiple investigations are frankly needed. The House Oversight Committee has actually started one, but it's looking into Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. And they wrote a letter to the secretary requesting documents and alleging a slow pace in resolving the issue. The letter also said the Department of Transportation's National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, has just stopped short of cementing a cause. Okay, no. The NTSB, it did issue a preliminary report, and we'll get into that in a minute. But how can members of Congress investigate the Transportation Secretary when they don't even know the difference between the Transportation Department and the NTSB? Here's a refresher for the Oversight Committee. The Department of Transportation, or DOT, is part of the executive branch. It is a cabinet-level department. The NTSB is a separate, independent federal agency charged by Congress, okay, with investigating transportation accidents. And that's what the NTSB started doing right after the derailment. Now I am happy to be joined by the chair of the National Transportation Safety Board, Jennifer Homendy. Madam Chair, thank you very much for being here today. Before we get into the derailment investigation, what do you make of the House Oversight Committee's letter to Secretary Buttigieg, their obvious confusion about the role of the NTSB?
Well, it certainly was interesting. We are not part of the Department of Transportation. We are an independent agency that's charged by Congress with investigating major disasters. I do think it might be a great opportunity to have them over to the NTSB and walk through our labs and learn all about us and learn about our mission.
I'm sure the Congressman Comer is watching this, and I hope he takes you up on that offer. Let's talk about the report. The initial findings point to what you're saying is an overheated wheel bearing as the cause of the derailment. But that is not the cemented. You're not saying that you know for sure that is what caused it. So how close are you to finding the actual cause?
Well, that is what caused the derailment.
Okay.
But
you are sure about that?
Yes. But what led to the overheated wheel bearing and why it wasn't detected earlier and what could have been done to detect it earlier, what maintenance practices, what inspection practices does Norfolk Southern carry out? We have a lot of questions to figure out how we got there. The what is often easy to figure out after any sort of tragedy. It's how we got to that point where such a tragedy occurred and what we need to do to make sure it's prevented in the future.
So in terms of the how we got to the point of the tragedy in East Palestine, then that final report is not expected for another year. Given the increased media attention here, just the public interest in this report, do you all have any plans to speed up that timeline?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that question, but we won't sacrifice the accuracy and quality of our investigation. The residents of East Palestine count on that. We have to be absolutely accurate in what we're finding. However, we can at any time issue urgent safety recommendations during the investigation to address safety issues. In addition, we work with partners like the U.S. Department of Transportation. We will work with tank car manufacturers and others who will have access to the facts of our investigation, and we expect them to take immediate action.
So do you have any urgent recommendations given your initial report now that you all are deliberating about putting forth?
Yeah, great question. We just finished our on-scene portion of the investigation last Wednesday with evaluation of the tank cars and the damage to those tank cars. So now we'll continue through our fact-finding phase. And once that fact-finding phase is completed, we'll move into analysis. But during that time, we're also going to have an investigative field hearing in East Palestine.
When is that?
That will be around May. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we'll be watching that. You've been warning about the dangers of misinformation specifically here, saying, quote, anyone speculating about what happened is a tweet we put out, didn't happen or should have happened is misleading a suffering community. Are you still seeing a lot of misinformation out there?
I am. And it is so dangerous to have that misleading information because then residents count on that information. And also during our investigation, when we're looking at how to prevent this from reoccurring, we will issue urgent safety recommendations and final recommendations. But if people are focused on the wrong solutions, we won't be able to prevent
this. Or like the politics, because you've talked a lot about the politics of this situation. Has the politics of this hindered your investigation at all?
It hasn't hindered our investigation, but I don't understand the politics around it. There are over 1,000 derailments annually. We've never seen this kind of political attention to something like this. And maybe, maybe we need to raise future investigations more in the media so people understand what we're doing and understand the tragedies that people are facing annually. But I've never seen this kind of attention.
Do you have a message to the members of Congress? Democrats and Republicans?
Yeah, I'd say, and this is coming from somebody who worked on the Hill for over 14 years, come together and address rail safety, but specifically this community, address their needs right now and in the coming months, and focus on what would prevent it from reoccurring, at least for our portion of the investigation. I do know EPA has another mission, CDC has another mission, but
there's real questions about the water.
That's right. Come together, though, and prevent this from reoccurring.
All right. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy, thank you very, very much for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it.